humble mind, when rightly used, should feel the pains of those abused, should share the joys of those content, and bear the pangs of sad lament. For when we feel for what we see, we cultivate our sympathy. And thus it is that when we're moved, we find ourselves at once improved. The theatre used to hone this skill, but now it favours gaudy thrill. For music, smoke, and flashing lights are valued over human plights. Our cherished bard of former age had set the passions centre stage, and this I aim to fast restore, to make our theatre good once more. I allocate this task to me, despite my pronoun being she. For it's been claimed by foolish folks that drama should be left to blokes, 'cause writing plays, apparently, means testicles are mandatory. So sorry, ladies in the stalls, but writing plays requires balls. I have no balls, but I've a pen, with which I'll show my countrymen, in manner bold, in scope profuse, that I, Joanna, need no muse. Like Mrs. Inchbold, whose career was founded on this stage right here, I stick a finger up to those who disapprove of female prose and pave the way for women now, whose plays are nothing short of wow. This comic plot I write tonight sees women set the world to right by acting roles that they create to make sure love perpetuates. And this is wise, don't you agree? For have you not, along with me, been hasty in your choice of mate, then felt your passion turn to hate? Yes, love it is we'll probe today. Now here's our cast to read the play. We begin in the home of Mr. Anthony Witherington. It's 1798 in the fashionable city of Bath, and Mr. Witherington is engaged in a difficult conversation with his two spirited nieces, Agnes and Mariane.
Pooh, get along, young vixens, and don't tease me any more.
So we will, my good sir, when you have granted our suit.
Do, dear uncle, it would be so pleasant.
Get along. Don't think to wheedle me into it. It's a foolish girl's whimsy. I'll have nothing to do with it.
It is a reasonable woman's desire, gentle guardian, and you must consent to it. For if I am to marry at all, I am resolved to have a respectable man, and a man who is attached to me. And to find out such a one in my present situation is impossible. I am provoked beyond all patience with your old greedy lords and matchmaking aunts. Your ambitious esquires and proud obsequious baronets are intolerable, and your rakish younger brothers are nauseous. Such creatures only surround me, whilst men of sense keep at a distance, and think me as foolish as the company I keep.
There is some truth in this, i'faith.
So, my dear, loving, good uncle, do let Mariane take my place for a little while. We are newly come to Bath. Nobody knows us. We have been but at one ball, and as I went in a plain dress, and Mariane looks so much better than me, she has already been mistaken for the heiress, and I for her portionless cousin. Do lend us your assistance.
So, in the disguise of a portionless spinster, you're to captivate some man of sense, I suppose.
I would fain have it so.
Go, thou art a fool, Agnes. Who will fall in love with a little ordinary girl like thee?
You are very saucy, uncle.
I'll hear no more of this nonsense.
Nay, good sir, we have not quite done with you yet. Grant our request, and then scamper off as you please.
I'll hold both your arms till you grant it.
And what makes you so eager about it, Mariane? You expect, I suppose, to get a husband by the trick.
Oh, give yourself no uneasiness about this, sir. She need not go husband hunting. She is already engaged.
Engaged? And pray, what fool has she picked out from the herd to enter into this precious engagement with?
Foolish enough fellow, to be sure. Your favourite nephew, Cousin Edward.
This is news indeed to amuse me with of a morning.
Yes, Uncle. And I can tell you more news. For they are not only engaged, but as soon as he returns from abroad, they are to be married.
Well, let them marry in the devil's name and go a-begging, if they please.
No, gentle guardian. They need not go a-begging. They will have a good fortune to support them.
Yes, they'll get a prize in the lottery or find out the Philosopher's Stone and coin their old shoes into guineas.
No, sir. It's not that way their fortune is to come. Did you never hear of a good, kind, rich uncle of theirs, the generous Mr. Witherington? He is to settle a handsome provision upon them as soon as they are married and leave them his fortune at last.
Thou art the wildest little witch in the world, and will never be at rest till thou hast got everything thine own way, I believe. Oh, very well.
I thank you, dear uncle. Oh, it shall be even so. And I shall have my own little boon into the bargain.
I did not say so.
Then I know it will be so. And many thanks to you, my dear good uncle.
Let me get away from you now. You're a couple of insinuating witches.
Well, heaven bless thee, my sweet Agnes.
Oh, I knew I should get the better of him some way or other. Let us set about our project immediately. Nobody knows us here but Lady Fade and Miss Eston. We must let them both into the secret. Lady Fade is confined with bad health, and though Miss Eston, I believe, would rather tell a secret than hold her tongue, yet as long as there are streets and carriages and balls and ribbons to talk of, there can be no great danger from her.
Oh, we shall do very well. How I long to frolic it away in all the rich trappings of heirship, amongst those sneaking wretches, the fortune hunters. They have neglected me as a poor girl, but I will play the deuce amongst them as a rich one.
You will acquit yourself very handsomely, I dare say, and find no lack of admirers.
Of all men living, I have set my heart upon humbling Sir Loftus. I hate him like a toad. He insulted a friend of mine last winter to ingratiate himself with an envious woman of quality. But I will be revenged upon him. How I will scorn him and toss up my nose at him.
That is not the way to be revenged upon him, silly girl. He is haughty and reserved in his manners. Such a man as that must be laughed at, not scorned. Familiarity and contempt must be his portion.
He shall have it then. And as for his admirer and imitator, Jack Opal, any kind of bad treatment, I suppose, will be good enough for him.
Quite good enough. Did you observe, in the ballroom last night, a genteel-looking man with a dark grey eye and a sensible countenance?
Wore he not a plain brownish coat? And stood he not very near us great part of the evening?
Yes, the very same. Pray endeavour to attract him.
If you are very desirous to see him in my train, I'll try him.
No, not desirous neither.
Then wherefore should I try?
Because I would have you try every art to win him, and I would not have him to be won.
Oh, I comprehend it now. This is the sensible man we're in quest of.
I shall not be sorry if it proves so. It's not his appearance prepossessing, Cousin Mariane.
He is too grave and dignified for such a girl as thou art. I fear we shall waste our labour upon him.
But he does not look always so. He kept very near me all the evening, and many a varied countenance crossed his face, but when I went away arm in arm with my uncle, I shall never forget the look of pleasant approbation with which he followed me. I had learnt but a little while before the mistake which the company made in regard to us, and at that moment the idea of this project came across my mind like a flash of lightning.
Very well, gentle cousin. The task assigned me is pleasing to my humour, and the idea of promoting your happiness at the same time will make it delightful. Let me see, how many lovers shall I have? 1, 2, 3.
I can tell you of one more lover than you wot of.
Pray, who is he?
Our distant cousin Royston from Yorkshire. He writes to my uncle that he will be in Bath today upon business of the greatest importance, which he explains to him in 3 pages of close-written paper. But whether he is to court me for himself, or for his son, or to solicit a great man who is here for a place, no mortal on earth can discover.
Well, let him come. I shall manage them all.
Miss Eston.
Let us run out of the way and say we are not at home. She will sit and talk these 2 hours.
You forgot we have something to say to her. Show her upstairs to my dressing room.
And it is a very bad thing for all that. I never could abide it. I wonder your master don't stop up those nasty chinks. There is such a wind in the hall. 'Tis enough to give one hoarseness. By the way, Mistress Mumblecake is sadly today. Has your lady sent to inquire for her, William? I wonder if her old coachman has sent her. I saw a new face on Milsom Street and...
The scene turns now to the fields before Mr. Witherington's house. Agnes, Mariane, and their loquacious friend, Miss Eston, emerge from the door of the house. Miss Eston continues to chat incessantly as the 3 women skip arm in arms across the garden. And here we meet 2 male characters central to our plot. The first is Sir Loftus Prettyman, a self-righteous fop, of the type commonly found among fashionable society. They are a timeless breed, unfortunately. The second is Harwood, a far less ostentatious character, a scholar and an attorney. Harwood, it seems, is rather distracted by the sight of our skipping ladies. He watches them eagerly as they pass him by.
What are you looking at, Harwood? Does she walk well?
I can't tell how she walks, but I could stand and gaze after her till the sun went down upon me.
She is a fine woman, I grant you.
I knew she would please. It is impossible she should not. There is something so delightful in the play of her countenance, it would make even a plain woman beautiful.
She is a fine woman, and that is no despicable praise from one who is accustomed to the elegance of fashionable beauty.
I would not compare her to anything so trifling and insipid.
She has one advantage which fashionable beauty seldom possesses.
What do you mean?
A large fortune.
It is not the heiress, I mean.
Is it Miss Eston you were raving about? She is showy at a distance, I admit, but as awkward as a dairymaid when near you. And her tongue goes as fast as if she were repeating a paternoster.
What, do you think I'm silly enough to be caught with that magpie?
Oh, who is it then, Harwood? I see nobody with Miss Witherington but Miss Eston, and the poor little creature, her cousin.
Good God! What a contemptible perversion of taste do interest and fashion create.
See how it is with you, Harwood, and I beg pardon too. The lady is very charming, I dare say. She is a dependent relation of Miss Witherington's. Now, I never take notice of such girls, for if you do it once, they expect you to do it again. I am sparing of my attentions, that she on whom I really bestow them may have the more reason to boast.
You are right, pretty man. She who boasts of your attentions should receive them all herself, that nobody else may know how little worth they are.
You're severe this morning, Mr. Harwood. Good morning. Sir, I see Lord Saunter in the other walk, and I must own I prefer the company of one who knows, at least, the common rules of politeness.
What a contemptible creature it is. He would prefer the most affected idiot to the most beautiful native character in the world. Here comes another fool. Opal, who has been gazing too.
Good morning, Harwood. I have been fortunate just now. I have met some fine girls, Faith.
I'm glad you have met with anything so agreeable. They're all equally charming to you, I suppose.
Nay, Harwood, I know how to distinguish. There is a little animated creature amongst them, all life and spirit. On my soul, I could even be in love with her.
Thou hast more discernment than I reckoned upon. Why, I must tell you, my good Opal, that lady who you admire is the sweetest little minx in England.
Is she indeed? I wish I'd taken a better look of her face then. But she wears such a cursed plume of blue feathers nodding over her nose, there's scarcely one half of it to be seen.
As I breathe, he has fallen in love with the magpie Miss Eston.
And what is so surprising about this, pray? Does not all the world allow Miss Witherington, the heiress, to be a fine woman?
That is not the heiress, Jack. The tall lady in the middle is her.
Piss, take it! She was pointed out to me as Miss Witherington. Piss, take the stupidity.
So you bestowed all your attention on this blue-feathered lady and let the other two pass by unnoticed?
No, not unnoticed, neither. Miss Witherington is too fine a figure to be overlooked anywhere. And for the other poor little creature who hung upon her arm so familiarly, I could not help observing her too. For I wondered Miss Witherington allowed such a dowdy-looking thing to walk with her in public.
Oh, hang you men of fashion!
Damn it, Harwood! Speak for respectfully of that class of men to whom I have the honour to belong. Good day, sir. I had no business to be so familiar with him. Sir Loftus is right. A reserved manner keeps impertinent people at a distance.
I'm glad he is gone. Alas, now that such impudent fellows should be so successful, whilst I stand gazing at a distance. How lightly she trips. But see, her uncle comes this way. He looked so kindly at her, I could not help loving him. He must be a good man. I'll make up to him, and he perhaps will join the ladies afterwards.
We arrive now at a lodging house, in which we find Royston, a wealthy cousin of Witherington's, very concerned with his business, Humphrey, Royston's long-suffering aide, and Jonathan, Royston's dog's body. Royston, it seems, is feeling rather stressed.
What a world of business I have got upon my hands! I must set about it immediately. Come here, Jonathan!
Well, sir.
Take that black trunk that is left in the hall upon your shoulder, Jonathan, and be sure you don't run against anybody with it, for that might bring us into trouble. And perhaps, as you go along, you may chance to meet with some of the Duke of Bogle's servants, or with somebody who can tell you where his grace lodges.
Oh, yes, Your Honour.
Oh, but first of all, however, if you see any decent hairdressers' shops in your way, desire them to send somebody here for my wig. And prithee, man, step into the corn market, if thou canst, on the way, and inquire about the price of oats.
Yes, please, Your Honour. But am I to go trudging around all these places with that great heavy trunk upon my shoulder?
No, numbskull. Did I not bid you carry it to the inn? But first, ask the coachman what he charges for the carriage. You will remember all this distinctly now.
Oh, yes, Your Honour. I'll manage it all, I'll warrant.
Oh, what a world of business I have upon my hands, Humphrey. I am as busy as a Minister of State.
Lie, Your Honour. I forgot all about his grace and the price of oats.
Damn your muddle pate! Did I not bid you inquire where his grace lives? And if you happen to see the...
Oh, odds bodikins, I remember it now, every word.
Now, in the first place, my good Humphrey, I must see after the heiress, Miss Witherington.
Your Honour won't be angry with me now, but hang me if I can tell whether I am to take that there trunk to the coach or the wagon.
Take it to the coach! No, to the wagon. No pest take it. Carry it where thou wilt, fool. Plague me no longer. And now, as I was saying, Humphrey, this requires a great deal of management. For if the lady don't like me, she may happen to like my son. And for the Duke, I will ply him as close as I can. For if I get the lady, George shall have the office. And if he gets the lady, I shall have the office. So we have two chances in our favour.
Belike, sir, if we were to take but one business in hand at a time, we might come better off at the long run.
Oh, thou hast no head for business, Humphrey. Thou hast no genius for business.
Why, for certain, your Honour has a marvellous deal of wit, but I don't know how it is. Nothing that we take in hand ever comes to any good. And the more pains we take about it, the worse it always succeeds.
Well, don't trouble yourself about it. I've head enough to manage my own affairs, and more than my own too. Nay, if his grace and I get into a good understanding together, there's no knowing. I may have affairs of the nation upon my hands. Oh, how do you do, my dear cousin? I hope I have the happiness to seeing you in good health.
I thank you, sir. You're welcome to Bath. I did not expect the pleasure of seeing you here.
Why, my dear worthy sir, I am a man of so much business, so tossed about, so harassed, with a multiplicity of affairs that I protest I can't tell myself one day what part of the world I shall be in the next.
You give yourself a great deal of trouble, Mr. Royston.
Oh, hang it! I never spare myself. I have got a world of new alterations going on at Royston Hall, if you'd take a trip down to see them.
I'm no great traveller, sir.
I've ploughed up the bowling green. I've cut down the elm trees. I've put up new stables and filled up the horse pond. I've dug up the orchard and pulled down the old fruit wall where that old little temple used to stand.
And is the little temple pulled down too?
I've pulled down every foot of it and built a new cart horse with the bricks. Good, commodious stalls for 30 horses, cousin Witherington. It is as clever a well-constructed building as any in the country. But when I get the new addition to the mansion house finished, that will be the grand improvement. Oh, the best carpenter's work in the country, my dear sir. All well-seasoned timber from Norway.
It is part of a disputed wreck, sir, and if the lawsuit about the right to it turns out in my master's favour, as it should do, it will be the cheapest built house in the county.
So you've got a lawsuit on your hands, cousin Royston.
Bless you, my good sir. I am the most peaceable creature in the world, but I will suffer no man to impose upon me.
No, nor the women either, sir. For it was but the other day that he prosecuted Widow Gibson for letting her chickens feed amongst his corn.
And who was the judge to pay the expenses of court, Mr. Humphrey?
Aye, to be sure, his honour was obliged to pay that.
And the widow?
Well, nay, faith, after all, they but find her in a sixpence.
To be sure, Mr. Humphrey, and then the sixpence would indemnify your master for the costs of suit.
Nay, as a body may say, he might as well have let her alone for any great matter he made of it that way. But it was very wrong of her, sir, to let her hens go amongst his honour's corn.
Say no more about it, my good Humphrey. You vindicated your master most ably.
Aye, thank God, I do sometimes make shift in my poor way to edge in a word for his honour.
You are strangely given to prating this morning, Humphrey. By the by, cousin Witherington, I must consult you about my application to the Grace.
You forget to ask for the lady, sir.
Well, what did you say of his Grace?
No. I meant... Did I not say the gracious young lady? Your niece. I hope she is well.
She's very well. You will go home with me and visit her.
Oh, I'm infinitely obliged to you, my worthy good sir. I shall attend you with the greatest pleasure.
He is gone. I've missed the good uncle of Agnes. What is the matter with me now, that the sound of an old man's voice should agitate me thus? Did I not feel it was the sound of something which belonged to her? In faith, I believe if her kitten was to mew, I should hasten to hold some intercourse with it. I'll run after the old gentleman even now. What a delightful witch it is.
Let's head back to Mr. Witherington's house and rejoin our heroines, Agnes and Mariane. We find Mariane reading a letter from her fiancé, Edward. The curious Agnes is keen to learn of its content.
My friend Edward is well, I see. Pray, what does the traveller say for himself?
You shall read it all by and by. Everything that is pleasant and kind.
Heaven prosper you both. You're happier than I am with all my fortune, Mariane. You have a right true lover.
And so have you, Agnes. Harwood will bear the trial. I have watched him closely, and I'll venture my word upon him.
If thou art not deceived, thou art the dearest sweet cousin on earth.
Sir Loftus, Prettyman, and Mr. Opal.
I am at home. I can't entertain these fools, so I have put up my letter. Do you receive them? I will soon return.
Have the goodness to be seated, sir. Pray, sir, Miss Witherington will be here immediately. I hope you had a pleasant walk after you left Sir Loftus.
No. Were you along with Miss Witherington?
You are fond of that walk, Mr. Opal. I think I've seen you there frequently.
Ma'am, you are very... I do sometimes walk.
The country is delightful round Bath.
On honour, I never attended to it.
I hope I see Miss Witherington entirely recovered from the fatigues of the morning.
Pretty well. After the fatigue of dressing too, which is a great deal worse, Sir Loftus.
For the ball, I presume.
I am delighted.
Do you know what a provoking mistake my milliner has made?
I don't know.
I hope,
She
madam...
has made up my whole suit of trimmings with the colour of all others I dislike.
This is very provoking indeed. I
And
would...
she has sent home my petticoat all patched over with scraps of gold foil, like a Mayday dress for chimney sweep.
A very good comparison.
Very good indeed.
I'll say nothing about it, but never employ her again.
I am delighted, Miss Witherington.
Are you, Sir Loftus? I have broken my fan. Pray put it by with your own, my dear Agnes.
If you would have done me the honour to hear me, ma'am, I should have said I am delighted to see you dressed, as I hope it may presume from it you intend going to the ball tonight.
Indeed, I am too capricious to know whether I do or not.
Very,
Do you think it would be pleasant?
very pleasant. If the devotions of 1,000 admirers can make it so.
Oh, the devotions of 1,000 admirers are like the goodwill of everybody. One steady friendship is worth it all.
From which may I infer that one faithful adorer, in your eyes, outvalues all the 1,000. So would I have Miss Witherington to believe, and if that can be any inducement, she will find such a one there, most happy to attend her.
Will she? Pray, what kind of man is he?
Perhaps it will not be boasting too much to say. He is a man of fashion, and of some little consequence in the world.
Handsome and accomplished too, Sir Loftus.
I must not presume, ma'am, to boast of my accomplishments.
Oh, Lud. So it is yourself after all. Oh, bless me. Oh, what makes me yawn so? I forgot to visit my old woman, who sells the cakes this morning. That must be it. Do you love gingerbread, Sir Loftus?
Gingerbread?
Well, after all, I believe it will be pleasant enough to go to the ball with such an accomplished attendant.
Are you so obliging, Miss Witherington? Will you permit me to have the happiness of attending you?
If you'll promise to make it very agreeable to me.
The heaven be praised, they are here.
I thought you were brought Mr. Royston with you.
He left us at the shop, by the way, to inquire the price of turnip seed, but I met this fine young fellow along the way, and I was just explaining to him that the study and preparation requisite for the profession of law is not altogether a dry treasuring up of facts in the memory, as many young students conceive. He who pleads the cause of man before fellow men must know what is in the heart of man, as well as in the book of records.
Yeah, but the most pleasing part of our task, my good sir, is not the least difficult. You see, where application only is wanting, I shall not be left behind, for I'm not without ambition, though the younger son of a family by no means affluent.
Go on, Mr. Harwood.
Sorry, I thought I had a door moved.
Oh, it's Agnes in the next room, I dare say. She's always making a noise.
In the next room?
Have the goodness to proceed.
I was going to say, or rather think I said, I am sure... Well, I said, I think I told you. In faith, my good sir, I will tell you honestly, I forgot what I meant to say.
No matter. It puts me in mind of a little accident which happened to myself when I was in Lincoln's Inn.
After so many false alarms, you steal upon us at last like a little thief.
And I steal something very good from you too if you lose my uncle's story by this interruption. For I know by his face he was telling one.
Raillery is not always well-timed, Miss Agnes Witherington.
Nay, do not be cross with us, sir. Mr. Harwood knew it was too good to be spent upon one pair of ears, so he calls in another to partake.
Get along, baggage.
So I will, uncle. For I know that only means with you that I should perk myself up by your elbow.
Well, 2 or 3 of us young fellows were met. I did not say.
At Lincoln's Inn.
She has named it, sir.
I know well enough I was there. And if I remember well, George Buckner was one of us.
You was going to speak, Miss Witherington.
No, indeed I was not.
Well, George Buckner and 2 or 3 more of us, we were in a very pleasant humour that night.
Do you not want something?
No, I thank you, I want nothing.
Nay, say what you please to one another. My story is ended.
My dear sir, we are perfectly attentive.
Now pray hold thy tongue. I forgot I must consult the court calendar on Royston's account.
How could you do so to my uncle? I would not have interrupted him for the world.
Aye, chide me well. I dearly love to be chidden.
Do not invite me to it. I'm said to have a very good gift that way, and you will soon have too much of it, I believe.
Oh no, I would come every hour to be chidden.
And take it meekly, too.
Nay, I would have my revenge. I should call you Scolding Agnes, and Little Agnes, and my Little Agnes.
You forget my dignity, Mr. Harwood.
Oh, you put all dignity out of countenance. The great mogul himself would forget his own in your presence.
Am I, as the good folk say, such a very humbling sight? But they are going to the garden. I am resolved to be one of the party. It was delightful to meet you, Mr. Harwood. Perhaps you might call on me again.
Ma'am, it would be the greatest pleasure.
I have been all over the town, and here am I at last, quite tired to death. How do you... Oh, la, there is nobody here. Oh, la, I wish they would come.
Oh, madam, I have the honour of being your very humble servant. I hoped I'd been here sooner, but I've been so overwhelmed with a multiplicity of affairs. And you know, madam, when that is the case, then...
Oh, one is never master of one's time for a moment. I'm sure I have been all over town this morning, looking after 100 things, till my head has been put into such a confusion. La, Mom, said my milliner, do take some lavender drops. You look so pale. Why, says I don't much like to take them, Mistress Trollope. They aren't always good.
No more they are, ma'am. You are very right. And if a silly fellow I know had taken my advice last year and bought up the crops of lavender, he would have made an absolute...
very good fortune, I dare say. But people never will take advice, which is very foolish in them, to be sure. Now, I always
Be good as to hear me, ma'am.
Of course, I certainly, sir, I always say, if they give me advice, it is for my good, and why should not I take it?
Oh, and the damned fellow, foolish fellow too, I once saved him from being cheated in a horse match.
There are such cheats. A friend of mine bought a little lapdog the other day.
But the horse, ma'am, was...
Not worth a guinea, I dare say. Why, they had the impudence to palm it on my friend.
It was a good mettled horse, and might have passed as a good purchase at the horse, but he made looking at his forefeet and...
At the foot of her own bed, she found it was all over mangy. I'm sure I would rather have a plain, wholesome cat than the prettiest mangy dog in the kingdom.
Certainly, ma'am. And I assure you for the horse, for says I to the groom, it was a wood...
I dare say it was.
What is the matter with this pasture? I said, Thomas, it looks as if it's been rubbed up wrong.
For a lady of quality should be all over so. Nasty creature. It had spots upon its back as large as my watch. Oh, la. I am half an hour after my time. My mantua maker is waiting for me. Good morning, sir.
Clack, clack, clack. What a devil of a tongue she has. Faith, George shall have her. I'll ask for the place for myself. Oh, there's company in the garden. I'll go and join them.
Following his misadventure with Miss Eston, Royston approached Mariane and eventually proposed marriage. We discover the young lady now, inordinately amused at the manner in which she rejected him.
Oh, how my poor size ache. I shan't be able to love again for a month.
You've got rid of one lover who'll scarcely attempt you a second time. I've met Mr. Royston hurrying through the hall and muttering to himself like a madman. It's not your refusal of his son that has roused him so.
No, he began his courtship in a doubtful way, as if he would recommend a gay young husband to my choice. But a sly compliment to an agreeable man of a middle age brought him soon to speak plainly for himself.
But how did you provoke him so?
I'll tell you another time. It is later than I thought.
Don't go yet. How stands it with you and Harwood?
Harwood. He does not know whether I am tall or short, brown or fair, foolish or sensible, after all the pains I have taken with him. He has eyes, ears, and understanding for nobody but you, Agnes. He spoke to me once with animation in his countenance, and I turned round to listen to him eagerly. But it was only to repeat to me something you had just said. I don't know how it is. He seemed to me at first a pleasanter man than he proves to be.
Oh, say not so, Mariane. He proves to be most admirable.
Well, be it so. He cannot prove better than I wish him to do, and I can make up my list without him.
So it was only to repeat to you something that I had been saying.
Ha! You are thinking of this still. I believe indeed he sets down every turn of your eye in his memory and acts it all over in secret.
Do you think so? Give me your hand, my dear Mariane. You are a very good cousin to me. Marks every turn of mine eye! I am not quite such an ordinary girl as my uncle says. My complexion is as good as your own, Mariane, if it weren't a little sunburnt. But here comes Uncle. My dear sir, how long you've been away from us this morning. I am delighted to see you, so pleased and so happy.
You're mistaken, young lady. I'm not so pleased as you think.
Is it really so? Let me look in your face, Uncle. To be sure, your brows are a little knit and your eyes a little gloomy.
No, young ladies, I'm in no mood to be played with. I can't approve of every farce you please to play off in my family, nor to have my relations affronted and driven from my house for your entertainment.
Indeed, sir, I treated Royston better than he deserved, for he would not let me have time to have a civil denial. I could just get my word to stop his career with a flat refusal, as he was about...
I know very well how you've treated him. I don't choose to have my house in a perpetual bustle from morning till night with your plots and your pastimes. And allow me to say, all this playing and laughing and hoidening about, it's not gentlewomanlike. Nay, I might say, it's not maidenly. A high-bred, elegant woman is a creature which man approaches with awe and respect. But nobody would think of accosting you with such impressions.
Don't distress yourself about this, sir. We shall get the men to bow to us and tremble before us too.
Who would tremble before thee, dost thou think?
What think you of your favourite Harwood?
Oh, he's pleased with thee as an amusing and good-natured creature, and thou thinkest he is in love with thee, forsooth.
A good-natured creature?
Mm-hmm.
He shall think me a tartar and be pleased with me!
No, he's not quite so far gone as that, I believe.
I'll bet you £200 that it is so. If I win, you shall pay it to Mariane for wedding trinkets. And if you win, you may build a couple of almshouses.
Well, be it so. We shall see.
Indeed, we shall see you lose your bat, Uncle.
Yes, baggage, I know I shall have your prayers against me, I know.
Mr. Opal.
I hope I have the pleasure of seeing Miss Witherington well.
Your servant, sir?
How did you like the ball last night? There was a gay, genteel-looking company.
Excepting Lord Saunter and Lord Pawley and Sir Loftus and one or two more of us, I did not know a soul in the room.
Affected puppy. I can't bear to look at him.
You will soon have a new beau to enrich your circle, Mr. Opal. The handsome and accomplished Colonel Beaumont. He is just returned from abroad and is now quite the fashion at court. Don't you think Mr. Opal resembles him?
Oh, Oh, very much indeed.
Does he not resemble Sir Loftus, too?
Not at all. That haughty coolness of his is quite old-fashioned now, so unlike the affable frankness so much admired in the Colonel. You have seen him, I presume?
I have not had that honour.
Then you will not be displeased at the likeness we have traced when you do.
The greatest pleasure of my life, ma'am, will be to resemble what pleases you.
You flatter me infinitely.
Call it not flattery, charming, Miss Witherington, for I will now have the boldness to own to you frankly, I have been, since the first moment I beheld you, your most sincere, your most passionate admirer. Upon faith I have.
Nothing but my own want of merit can make me doubt of anything Mr. Opal asserts upon his honour or his faith.
How much that turn of his head puts me in mind of the Colonel.
So it does, my Agnes. Pray have the goodness to hold it so for a moment. There now, it is just like the very thing. One would swear it was the Colonel. Did you see my gloves anywhere about the room?
I shall get them.
Miss Eston.
Oh, yes, take it! I look at her once in mistake, and she has followed and ogled me ever since.
Oh, my dear creatures, you can't think how I have longed to see you. Mistress Thompson kept me so long this morning, and you know, she is an intolerable talker, and... Oh, how do you do, Mr. Opal? I declare I did not observe you.
I am obliged to you, ma'am. I am beyond my appointment, I see. Excuse me, I must hurry away.
I am very glad he is gone. He does so haunt me and stare at me. I'm quite tired of it. The first time I ever saw him, you remember how he looked me out of countenance. I was resolved before I came not to take any notice of him.
So you know you should find him here then?
Oh, la, one doesn't know of a morning who one may meet, as likely him as anybody else. How do you do, Mr. Witherington? I have just seen your friend, Lady Fay. Poor dear soul, she's at...
I'm sorry, ma'am, it's not in my power at present. I'm in a hurry. I have an appointment. Your servant, ma'am.
Well, now, this is very odd. Wherever I go, I find all the men just going out to some appointment. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Mistress Thompson has put a new border to her drawing room, just like the one upstairs. Has it on a dark blue ground?
I'm sure I cannot tell. Let us go upstairs and see.
I'll join you in a moment.
Now, don't be angry with me, madam, but I have walked to Orange Grove truly, and to Milsom Street, and then didn't I trot to Cheap Street, and t'other street on Upper Milson Street too, until I have worn out my shoes in your service. And if not one bookseller in Bath has a single copy of Julie to lend to you, how can I help it? La, what that sensible young lawyer of yours will think of such a French story of that is beyond me.
Well, never mind that now, Betty. I have a new task for you, and I'm sure you'll do very well. My uncle is so bad-humoured as to say that Mr. Harwood is only pleased and amused with my good nature. We must try him farther, for I am resolved to prove to my uncle that one man at least finds even my faults and failings delightful.
Oh, dear me, madam. Your faults and failings.
I would have him think me somewhat given to freaks, and I would have him love me in spite of them. You must help me set about it.
Oh, Lord pity me. Right, I see what you would be at. You want me to cry your faults and failings, indeed, to that good Mr. Harwood, and make him believe it too? And you will not abuse me for the doing of it neither? La. Madam, do you think I have no more reason than a hedge pig? If I did tell a small fib now and then to the old gentleman when Miss Mariane was wanting a little innocent speech with her good friend Mr. Edward. Or will I play such a trick as this?
Why, to be sure you will, my dear, clever Betty. And be thanked for it too. Tell me, how shall we try Mr. Harwood, think you?
Lord. Once, give me leave to tell him of my mistress's short temper.
Saucy Betty! I shall indeed pretend to be ill-tempered.
And if I happen to mislay a favourite glove or break some small worthless trinket just as the gentleman approaches.
You must watch it over the window for him.
Yes, madam, and when I see him coming up the path, I will weep and wail and all for a little accident or so. And then you may abuse me as loudly as you please, I believe.
You know it will all be in play.
Oh, fine young ladies' crosswords are never seriously meant, madam, I'm sure. And then, let me venture just once to drop a hint in the gentleman's ear of how many shillings you spent for a certain gold bead sprig to the front of your white satin turbid.
Very good!
Oh, and never the gift of a cast-off gown or even a little broken fan for your faithful servant.
Oh, and must I be uncharitable as well? You are an impudent girl. But will this try him, think you?
Truly, madam. If the young gentleman looks for peace and order in his family, it will try his patience surely, I warrant. Why, such a wife would have him all at 6s and 7s. I fear to think on it indeed, madam.
Well, that will do. We must remember that I am ill-tempered.
And that I am ill-used, madam. Indeed we must. You believe it. I'll be sworn.
Later, outside the house, we find the perseverant Harwood making his third visit of the day.
Well, here I am again. Yet devil take me if I can muster up resolution enough to touch the knocker. What a fool was I to call twice this morning. The old gentleman will look strangely at me. The fine heiress, her cousin, will stare at me. Nay, the very servants begin already to smile with impertinent significance as I inquire with conscious foolishness if the lady is at home.
Oh, dear me! Oh, dear me!
What is the matter with you, my good girl?
I'm sure it was not my fault. And she has abused me worse than a heathen.
That is hard indeed.
Indeed it is, sir. And all for a little nasty essence bottle, which was little better than a genteel kind of a stink at best. And I am sure I did but take out the stopper to smell it when it came to pieces in my hand like an eggshell. Well, if bottles will break, how can I help it? But la, sir, there is no speaking reason to my mistress. She is as furious and as ill-tempered as a dragon.
Oh, don't distress yourself. Miss Agnes Witherington will make amends for you for the severity of your mistress.
She, truly? Well, she is my mistress herself. And she has abused me. Dear me. Now, if it had been Miss Witherington, she would not have said a word to me. But Miss Agnes is so cross and so ill-natured there is no living in the house with her.
Girl, you are beside yourself.
No, sir, God be praised, but she's beside herself, I believe. Does she think I am going to live in her service to be called names so and compared to a slug, too? If I had been waiting maid to the Queen, she would not have compared me to a slug. And will I take such usage from her? What do I care for her cast gowns?
Ah, well, but she is liberal to you.
She liberal? She'll keep everything that is worth keeping to herself, I warrant. And Lord pity those who are bound to live with her. I'll seek out a new place for myself. And let the devil, if he will, wait upon her next. In the shape of a slug. They'll be fit company for one another. And if he gets the better of her at scolding, then he's a better devil than I take him for. And I am sure, sir, if you were to see her doing
Get along! Get along! You are too passionate yourself to be credited.
I know what I know! I don't care what nobody else says, no more I do. I know who to complain to.
What a malicious toad it is. I dare say now she has done something very provoking. I cannot bear these pert chambermaids. The very sight of them is offensive to me.
Good evening to your honour. Can you tell me if Mr. Witherington be at home? For Zhou, the master has sent me with a message to him.
We'll go to the house and inquire. I know nothing about it. That girl has put me all out of heart, though, with her cursed stories. No, it's impossible. It cannot be.
Faith, there is hot work going on amongst them. Thank heaven I am out again.
What do you mean?
Faith, that little lady in that there house is the best hand at a scold, saving Mary McMurroch, my wife's mother, that ever these two blessed eyes ever looked upon. Lord, sir, her tongue goes ting, 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 as shrill as the bell of Eddie Pyman. And then, sir, her two eyes look out of her head as though they were a couple of glowworms. And then, sir, she claps her little hands so.
You shut your fool's mouth and be off with you.
So you're still loitering here, Harwood? You've been very much amused, I suppose, with the conversation of those good folks you have talked with.
No, not much amused, madam. Though somewhat astonished, I own. Too much astonished, indeed, to give it any credit.
Oh, it is true, though. I've been very cross with the girl and very cross with everybody, and if you don't clear up that dismal face of yours, I shall be very cross with you too. What could possess you to stay so long under the chestnut tree?
Is it possible you were then looking at me and observing my motions?
Indeed, I was just going to open my window and beckon to you when that creature broke my phial of sweet essence and put me quite out of temper.
Well, hang the stupid jade. I could...
So you are angry too? Oh, well done. We are fit company for one another.
A witch that she is, she should be beaten for her humours. I'll not go with her.
Oh, so you won't go in with me? Good evening to you then. We did want a fourth person to make up a party with us, but since you don't like it, I dare say Sir Loftus will come.
Well, cursed coxcomb, if he sets his snout within the door, I'll pistol him.
Well said! You will make the best company in the world. Come along, come along.
It's the following day, and we're in the lodging house of Mr. Harwood. He's had a terrible night's sleep, and he's looking for some consolation.
I have neither had peace nor sleep since I beheld her. Oh, that I had never known her. Oh, would my friend were come. I will open my heart to him. He perhaps will speak comfort to me. For surely that temper must be violent indeed, which generous affection cannot subdue. Thomas, insipid constitutional good nature is a tiresome thing. A passion subdued by reason is worth a score of it, and passion subdued by love, well, that were better still. Thomas, yesterday, as I entered her door, I heard her name me to her cousin with so much gentle softness in her voice. I blessed her as she spoke. If this were so, all might still be well. Oh, that this cursed head of mine would give over thinking but for 1/2 hour. What are you doing here, Thomas?
You called, sir?
Well, I did want something. I forgot it. You made good haste, Thomas.
I did make good haste, sir. As you should be impatient with me.
I am sometimes impatient with you, though. I think I've heard you say you were a soldier in your youth.
Yes, sir.
And you had a wife, too, a woman of fiery metal to bear about your knapsack.
Yes, sir, my little stout, spirity Jane. She had a devil of a temper, to be sure.
You loved her notwithstanding.
Yes, to be sure, I did, as it were, bear her some kindness.
I'll be sworn you did! And you would have been very sorry to have parted with her.
Why, death parts the best of friends, sir. We spent but 4 years together.
And so your little spirity Jane is taken so soon away from you. Think you give me thy hand. My good Thomas.
Lord, sir, don't be so distressed about it. She did die, to be sure, but truly, between you and I, although I did make a kind of whimpering at the first, I was not ill-pleased afterwards to be rid of her. For, sir, truly, a man who has got an ill-tempered wife has but a dog's life of it at the best. Will you have another nice glass of medicinal water from the courtyard, sir?
No, I have told you 100 times not to bring me that chalky muck. Be gone, Thomas. My dear Colonel, this is kind. I am very glad to see you.
Yes, it is so seldom that a young fellow has any inclination for the company of an old man that I should feel myself vain of the summons you have sent me, were I not afraid, my dear Harwood, that you are indisposed.
I'm not indisposed. I rested indifferently last night. I hope I see you well.
Very well, as you may guess from the speed I have made in coming to you. These legs do not always carry me so fast, but you have something particular to say to me.
Yes, I'm very sensible for your friendship. Pray, Colonel, be seated. There are moments in a man's life, Colonel Hardy, when the advice of a friend is one of the greatest value, particularly one who has also been his father's friend.
I shall be happy to advise you as well as I am able.
And I am about to commence a laborious profession. The mind is naturally anxious.
But you are too capable of exercising well that profession to suffer much uneasiness.
Well, many a man with talent superior to mine has sunk beneath a burden.
And many a man with talents vastly inferior to yours has borne it up with credit.
Pardon me. I meant to have consulted you in regard to other difficulties.
All right, you are. Let me hear everything you wish to say.
There are certain attachments in a man's heart where he may be so deeply interested, I would say, so very, or rather I should say, so strangely engaged.
Oh. Here it is. I understand it now. But pray, don't be so foolish about it, Harwood. You are in love,
I thank your goodness, my dear Colonel. I fear it is somewhat so with me.
And whence your fear? You have not been prudent enough to fall in love with an heiress.
No, my dear sir, I have not.
Oh, that is a great mistake to be sure, Harwood. And yet, many a man has not advanced the less rapidly in his profession for having had a portionless wife to begin the world with. It is a spur to industry.
Well, such sentiments are what I expected from Colonel Hardy. I don't know how to express it. I am perhaps too delicate in these matters. We ought not to expect a faultless woman.
No, surely. And if such a woman were to be found, she would be no fit companion for us.
My dearest friend, your liberality and candour delight me. I do indeed believe that many a man has lived very happily with a woman far from being faultless, and, after all, where is the great injury he sustains if she should be a little violent and unreasonable?
Nay. Heaven defend us from a violent woman, for that is the devil himself. She is not ill-tempered, I hope.
Not absolutely so. But she is of a very quick and lively disposition, and is apt to be too hasty and unguarded in her emotion. I do not perhaps make myself completely understood.
Oh, I understand you perfectly. I have known ladies of this lively disposition, very hasty and unguarded too in their demands upon a man's pocket as well as patience. But she may be of a prudent and economical turn. Is it so, Harwood?
I do not say it is, Colonel.
I am sorry to distress you so much, my dear friend. Pardon the freedom of friendship, but indeed, an expensive and violent-tempered woman is not to be thought of. He who marries such a one forfeits all peace and happiness. Pluck up some noble courage and renounce this unfortunate connection.
Renounce it, Colonel Hardy? Is it from you that I receive so hard, so unfeeling a request, who have suffered so much yourself from the remembrance of an early attachment?
Oh, how can you be such a ninny, my dear Harwood? I was early chagrined with the want of promotion and disappointed in my schemes of ambition, which gave my countenance something of a melancholy cast, I believe, and the ladies have been kind enough to attribute it to the effects of hopeless love.
I am sorry, sir. We have understood one another so imperfectly.
You have sought a love-worn companion, and you have found a plain-spoken friend. Deal with me more openly. When I know who this bewitching creature is, I shall, perhaps, judge more favourably of your passion.
It is Miss Agnes Witherington.
Cousin to Miss Witherington, the heiress.
Yes, it is she. What have I said to amaze you?
That little, forgive me if I were to almost say, plain-looking girl, I mean Harwood,
You have lost your wits.
I believe I have, Colonel. Which must plead my pardon likewise for expecting this friendship from you.
You distress me.
I distress myself still more by suffering so long the pain of this conversation.
Well, let us end it then. As soon as you please. When you are in a humour to listen to reason, I shall be happy to have the honour of seeing you.
Good day, sir. What a fool was I to send for this man. A little plain-looking girl. What do the people mean? Why does not the little witch wear high heels to her shoes and stick a plume of feathers in her cap? They will drive me distracted.
After freshening up, the determined Harwood has popped over to see Agnes again. We find him hanging fondly over Agnes while she embroiders.
Pretty it is. And now you put a little purple on the side of the flower.
Yes, a very little shade.
And now a little brown upon that.
Even so.
And thus you work up and down with that tiny needle of yours till the whole flower is completed. Why, Agnes, you little witch, you're doing that leaf wrong.
You may pick it out then and do better for me. I'm sure you've been idle enough all the morning. It is time you were employed about something. Good-for-nothing creature you are. You do nothing for yourself, and you'll suffer nobody else to do anything. I should have had the whole pattern finished before now, if you'd not loitered over my chair so long.
So you can't work when I look over you? Then I have some influence upon you. Oh, you sly girl, you are caught in your own words at last.
Indeed, Harwood, I wish you would go home again to your law books and your precedent hunting. You've misspent a great deal of time here already.
Is it not better to be with you in reality than only in imagination? Oh, my sweet Agnes, you will not believe what a foolish fellow I have been since I first saw you.
Nay, Harwood, I am not at all incredulous of the fact. It's only the cause of which I doubt.
Saucy girl, I must surely be revenged upon you for all this.
I'm tired of this work. I am going to walk in the garden.
And so am I.
You are?
Yes, I am. Go where you will, Agnes, to the garden or the field, the city or the desert, by sea or by land, I must even go too. I will never be where you are not, but when to be where you are is impossible.
There will be no getting rid of you at this rate, unless some witch shall have pity upon me and carry me up in the air upon her broomstick.
There I will not pretend to follow you. But as long as you remain upon the earth, Agnes, hang me if I can find in my heart to budge an inch from your side.
You are a madman.
You are a sorceress.
You're an idler.
You're a little mouse.
Oh, come, I'll fetch my shawl and let us go.
Bless me! I've forgotten to be ill-humoured all this time.
How delightful she is. How pleasant every change of her countenance. How happy must his life be, spent even in cares and toils, whose leisure hours are cheered with such a creature as this.
Don't tell me so. I know very well how it is. And you shall smart for it too, you lazy, careless, impudent fellow. And besides all this, how dare you use my kitten so?
Well now. But this is humanity. She will not have a creature ill-used. I wish you would speak more gently, though.
Later that same day, Mariane is preparing to bring an end to her humbling of Sir Loftus.
Agnes, cousin Agnes, where are you going?
I'm returning to Miss Eston, whom I've left in the parlour talking to the dog.
Well, let her talk to the dog a little longer and let me talk to you. I have set Betty to watch at the high windows to give notice of Sir Loftus' approach, that we may put ourselves in order to receive him. For I am resolved to have one bout more with him and discharge him for good. I am quite tired of him now.
Do you expect him?
Mm-hmm. And I must be prepared for him. I have a good mind to tell him at once I despise him. And that will be a plain, easy way of finishing the task.
No, my sweet Mariane. We must send him off with a clap. You have played your part very well hitherto. Keep it up, but for the last time, and let Eston and I go into the closet and enjoy it.
Well then, do so. I shall please you for this once.
Sir Loftus is just coming up the side path, madam, and he'll be at the door immediately.
I'll run and bring Eston directly.
Oh, quickly now, quickly.
La! I have torn my gown in my hair. Come along.
You were very studious this morning, Miss Witherington.
Ha! How do you do?
You've been well amused, I hope.
So. I must put in a mark here and not lose my place.
Permit me to say, madam, that it is time we should come to an explanation of each other's sentiments.
Whenever you please, sir.
I hope, then, I may be allowed to presume that my particular attentions to you, pardon me, ma'am, have not been altogether disagreeable to you.
Oh, not at all, Sir Loftus.
And I will presume, then, still farther, ma'am, and declare to you that from the very day which gave birth to my passion, I have not ceased to think of you with the most ardent tenderness.
La! Sir Loftus. Oh, was it not of a Wednesday?
Upon my word, I am not so very accurate. It might be Wednesday or Friday or any day.
Of a Friday, do you think? It runs strangely in my head that we saw one another first of a Wednesday.
I say, ma'am, the day which gave birth to my love.
Oh, very true. You might see me first of a Wednesday and yet not fall in love with me till the Friday. I wonder where William has put the nuts I bought for Miss Eston's squirrel.
Damn her freaks! I must not lose her for a trifle, though, but when she is once secured, I'll be revenged. I'll vex her. I'll drive the spirit out of her. My passion for you, Miss Witherington, is too generous and disinterested to merit this indifference.
Where are those damnable nuts?
Curse her and her nuts! My sentiments for you, ma'am, are of so delicate and tender a nature that they indeed deserve your indulgence. Tell me then, can the most disinterested, the most fervent love make any impression on your heart? I cannot exist in this state of anxiety any longer. At your feet, let me implore you.
Pray, Sir Loftus, don't kneel there. My maid has spilt something nasty on the floor.
Well, since you will not permit me the happiness of kneeling at your feet.
Nay, I will not deprive you of the pleasure. There is nothing nasty here.
Ma'am?
I see very well you are not inclined to condescend so far.
Madam, believe me, the pride, the pleasure of my life is to be devoted to the most adorable.
If your devotion is so complete, Sir Loftus, let me see you condescend still further. Show me your devotion.
Ma'am?
Lower, Sir Loftus. Let me see you condescend lower.
Oh.
And lower still.
Stay down, Sir Loftus.
Oh.
Stay down, sir. I'm afraid you have not hurt yourself, sir.
No, ma'am.
I'm sure he's hurt his poor dear nose. He's too ashamed to own it.
Get along, girls, and don't torment this poor man any longer. I'm afraid, Sir Loftus, the young vixens have been making a fool of you.
Sir, it is neither in your power nor theirs to make a fool of me.
Faith, Prettyman, I never thought in my life to have put you at such low prostrations.
Sir, your impertinence and yourself are equally contemptible, and I desire you would no longer take the trouble of intruding yourself onto my company, nor of affronting me as you hitherto have done with your awkward imitation of my figure and address.
What the devil do you mean? I imitate your figure and address.
You are beneath my resentment.
Be not so angry, good Sir Loftus. Let us end this business for the present, and when I am at leisure to hear the remainder of your declarations, we have been so unfortunately interrupted, I'll send and let you know.
No, faith, madam, you have heard the last words I shall ever say to you on this subject. A large fortune may make amends for an ordinary person, madam, but not for vulgarity and impertinence. A good morning.
Harwood has finally spoken to Witherington about his feelings for Agnes and sought his permission to propose. But Witherington is uneasy.
Who waits there? Tell Miss Agnes Witherington I wish to see her. What an absurd fellow this Harwood is, to be so completely bewitched with such a girl as Agnes.
Well, Uncle, what are you grumbling about? Harwood has just left you, I hear. Do tell me what he has been saying to you.
Why, he confesses that thou art ill-tempered, that thou art freakish, that thou art extravagant, and that of all the friends he has spoken with upon the subject, there is not one who will allow thee beauty enough to make a good-looking pot girl.
Did he say so?
Something very like it. But notwithstanding all this, there's something about thee so unaccountably delightful to him that, poor as thou art, he will give up all the fair hopes of opulence and the pleasures of freedom if thou wilt have the condescension in return to plague and torment him. Oh, for life.
Foolish enough indeed! Oh, yet heaven bless him for it. What a fortunate woman am I. I sought a disinterested lover, and I have found a most wonderful one.
I dare say you think yourself very fortunate.
Don't you likewise, my good sir? But you seem displeased at it.
You guessed rightly enough. I must speak without disguise, Agnes. I'm not pleased.
His want of fortune
It's
is
not that which disturbs me. But there are men whose passions are of such a violent, overbearing nature that love in them may be considered as a disease of the mind. Such men as these we sometimes see attach themselves even to ugliness and infamy, in defiance of honour and decency. With such men as these, women of sense and refinement can never be happy. Nay, to be willingly the object of their love is disrespectable. But you don't care for all this, I suppose.
No. Sir, you injure me. Prove that his love for me is stronger than his love of virtue, and I will...
Well, what will you do, Agnes?
I will give him up forever. If Harwood endures not the test, I will, indeed, renounce him. But no other man shall ever fill his place.
Well, we shall see. You're very thoughtful, Agnes. I fear I've distressed you.
You have distressed me, yet I thank you for it. I've been too presumptuous. I've ventured farther than I ought. Since it is so, I will not shrink from the trial.
What are you thinking of, miss?
How to set about this business.
And how will you do it?
I will write a letter to Lady Fade, asking pardon for having told some malicious falsehoods of her to a relation on whom she is dependent, begging she will make up the matter and forgive me, promising at the same time, most humbly, if she will not expose me for this time, never to offend so any more. All we have to do is contrive a way to make this letter fall into Harwood's hands. Will this do?
Yes, very well. If he loves you after this, his love is not worth the having.
Uncle, you are very hard-hearted, but you are very right. I know you are very right. Pray, does not Royston lodge in the same house with Harwood?
He does.
I wish by his means we could conceal ourselves somewhere in his apartments where we might see him put the letter into Harwood's hands and observe his behaviour. I don't know anybody else who can do this for us. Do you think you can put him into good humour again?
I rather think I can, for he hath still a favour to ask me.
We must give him a part to act. Do you think he can do it?
He'll be so flattered with being let into the secrets that I know he'll do his best.
What have been about so long together?
Hatching a new plot, girl, and we set about it directly, too. And I give you warning that this shall be the last of them.
Very well, Uncle. I have only now poor Opal to reward for his services. I've got a promise of marriage from him, in which he forfeits £10,000 if he draws back. I shall torment him with this a little. It was an extraordinary thing, to be sure, for an heiress to demand, but I told him It was the fashion.
Mr. Royston.
Oh, your servant, Royston. I'm very glad to... Don't start. Seeing the ladies with me, I know my niece Mariane and you have had a little misunderstanding, but when I've explained the matter to you, you'll be friends with her again and laugh at it yourself.
I have the honour to wish your ladies good morning.
Nay, cousin, you don't understand how it is. These girls have been playing tricks upon every man they've met with since they came here. Shake hands and be friends with her, cousin. Nobody minds what a foolish girl does.
Oh, for that matter, I mind these things as little as anybody, Cousin Witherington. I have too many affairs of such importance in my hands to attend to such little matters as these.
I thank you, sir, and I hope we shall be merry again, and you shall have your own share of the joke.
Yes, we shall be very merry. By the by, Witherington, I came here to tell you that I haven't got my business with the Duke put into so good a train that it can hardly misgive.
I'm very happy to hear it.
You must know I've set so artfully about it, cousin. I dare say you would get as much. You know me of old, eh? I've got Mr. Cullyfool to ask. For me, on my own account, I've bribed an old housekeeper who is to interest a great lady in my favour. I've called 11 times on his Grace's half-cousin, till she hath fairly promised me to write to my Lady Duchess upon the business. I've written to the steward and promised his son all my interest at the next election, if he has any mind to stand for our borough, you know. And I've applied by a friend. No. He has applied through the medium of another friend. Or rather, I believe by that friend's wife. Or aunt. Or some way or other. I don't exactly remember. But it's a very good channel, I dare say. Pray, do you know of any other good channels to solicit by?
Faith, Royston, you've found out too many roads to one place already. I fear you'll lose your way amongst them all. Come into the other room and we shall speak about it. I have a favour to ask of you too.
My dear sir, any favour in my power you may absolutely command at all times.
We're back at the lodging house of Royston and Harwood. The gang are making preparations for Harwood's final test.
Now, pray, compose yourself, young ladies, and sit down a little. I'll manage everything.
We depend entirely upon you, Royston.
I know you do. Many a one depends upon me, Cousin Witherington. And let me remember my lesson too. Hers is the letter for him, with the seal naturally broken, as if the lady had done it herself. Harwood will wonder now how I came to know about all this.
Oh, I wish it were over and we were out of this house again.
Don't be uneasy, ma'am. I'll manage everything. Jonathan! Don't you go and tell Mr. Harwood that I've got company here.
No, Your Honour. I knows better than that. For the ladies are to be behind the screen, sir, and he must know nothing of the matter, to be sure. If it can, it will be rare sport.
I hear a knock at the door.
It is him, I dare say. Run, Jonathan!
Come, let us hide ourselves. Mariane, don't breathe so loud. I don't breathe loud. To Uncle. Join the edge of your coat.
Who, silly girl? They can't see a bit of it.
Oh, my dear Colonel, how goes it? Harwood! Oh, I bade my men to tell you I was alone and very much disposed for your good company, but I am doubly fortunate.
Indeed, Royston. I have been pretty much with him these past few days, and I don't believe he gives me my great thanks for my company.
Nay, my good friend, I mean it not. But I am not happy, and fear I have been peevish with you.
Well, perhaps the young man is in love, Colonel.
No more, if you please, Royston. We are to speak of this no more.
But, Faith, I know that he is too. And I know the lady too. She's a cousin of my own, and I'm very well acquainted with her as I am my own dog. But you don't ask me what kind of girl she is.
Give over now, Royston. She is a very good girl, I dare say.
Oh, you may think so, but I should not say all I know of my cousin, to be sure, but...
What are all those cursed grimaces for? Oh. Her faults are plain and open as her perfection. These she disdains to conceal, and the others it is impossible.
Softly, Harwood. Don't be in a passion unless you would imitate your mistress, for she has not the gentlest temper in the world.
Well, I love her the better for it. I can't bear your insipid, passionless women. I would as soon live upon sweet curd all my life as attach myself to one of them.
She is very extravagant.
Well, heaven bless the good folks. Would they have a man to give up the woman of his heart because she likes a bit of lace upon her petticoat?
Well, but she's also...
Devil take you, Royston! Can't you hold your tongue about her?
You see, he can't bear it. Let me alone. I know when to speak and when to hold my tongue, as well as any other Harwood. Harwood, I am your friend. And though the lady is my relation, I must say I wish you had made a different choice, a better choice. I have discovered something in regard to her this morning which shows her to be a very improper one.
You are imposed upon by some damned falsehood.
But I have proof of what I say. The lady who is injured by her gave me this letter to show to Mr. Witherington.
Well, it is some fiend who wants to undermine her and has forged that scroll to serve her spiteful purpose.
I should be glad if it were so, my dear friend, but Lady Fade is a woman whose veracity has never been suspected.
From Lady Fade? Give it to me.
It is Agnes's hand, is it not?
Is. At least a good imitation of it.
Read the contents. Pray.
Madam, the scandalous and defamatory things I have said, to the prejudice of your ladyship's character, to your relation Mr. Worthy, I am heartily sorry for, and I am ready to beg pardon on my knees if you desire it, to acknowledge before Mr. Worthy himself that it is a falsehood, or make any other reparation in a private way that you may desire. Let me then conjure your ladyship not to expose me, and I shall ever remain your most penitent and grateful A. Witherington.
The lady would not be so easily pacified, though. She gave me the letter to show to her uncle.
My dear Harwood.
See how his lips quiver, how his bosom heaves.
My dear Harwood.
I shall go to my chambers.
Oh, he's got off.
Help! Help here! Who's got hartshorn, lavender, water? Help! Help here!
Let him carry this too far. Harwood! My dear Harwood!
What is all this?
I thought we should amaze you. I knew we should manage it.
You have managed it finely indeed to put Harwood in such a state with your mummery.
He not come to himself again. Get some water, Mariane, and see how pale he is. Oh, he recovers. Harwood, do you know me, Harwood?
What has brought you here? Leave me. Leave me. I am wretched enough already.
I come to bring you relief, my dear Harwood.
No, madam, it is misery you bring. We must part forever.
Oh, Uncle, did you hear that? He said we must part forever.
Don't be in such a hurry about it.
What came you here? And these ladies?
Oh, it was all my contrivance.
Pray now, Royston, be quiet a little. Mr. Harwood, I will speak to you seriously. I see you're attached to my niece, and I confess she has many faults. But I can see you're a man of sense, and with you she will make a more respectable figure in the world than with any other. I'm anxious for her welfare, and if you'll marry her, I will give her such a fortune as will make it no longer an imprudent step to follow your inclinations.
No, sir. You shall keep your fortune, and your too bewitching niece too. For her sake, I would have renounced all ambition. I would have shared with her poverty and neglect. I would have borne with her all her faults and weaknesses of nature. I would have toiled. I would have bled for her. But I can never yoke myself with unworthiness.
Admirable! Speak to him, Uncle. Tell him all, my dear, kind Uncle. I can't say a word.
Isn't she a little wrong in the head, Royston?
Give me your hand, Harwood. You're a noble fellow, and you shall marry this little girl of mine after all. This story of the letter and Lady Fade was only a concerted one amongst us to prove what metal you're made of. Agnes, to try your love, affected to be shrewish and extravagant, and afterwards, at my suggestion, to try your principles, contrived this little plot, which has just now been unravelled. But I do assure you, on the word of an honest man, there is not a better girl in the kingdom.
My charming, my delightful Agnes. Oh, what a fool I've been. How could I suppose it?
We took some pains with you.
And so thou art a good girl. A very good girl. I know thou art. I'll be hanged if thou hast one fault in the world.
No, no, Harwood, not quite so perfect. I can prove her still to be an arrant cheat. For she pretended to be careless of you when she thought of you all day long. And she pretended to be poor with £100,000, independent of anyone in her possession. She is Miss Witherington, the heiress. And this lady has only been her representative.
Now, good folks, have I not managed it cleverly?
Bless me. Here comes Sir Opal. I have not quite done with it yet.
Your servant, Mr. Opal.
Are you not surprised to find us all here?
Harwood, I know, is a very lucky fellow, but I knew you were here. It is impossible, you see, to escape me.
Come, Mr. Opal, you must join in our good humour here, for we've been making up a match. My niece, Agnes, with a large fortune, bestows herself on a worthy man who would have married her without one. And Mariane, who for certain reasons has assumed her character of heiress since we came to Bath, leaves all her borrowed state in hopes that the man who would have married her with a fortune will not now forsake her.
What is all this?
You seem disturbed, Mr. Opal. You have not been paying your addresses to her, I hope.
No, not paying my addresses. That is to say, not absolutely.
What is it you say? Don't you think I overheard it? Not paid your addresses to me. Oh, you false man. Can you deny the declarations you have made?
Upon honour, madam, we men of fashion don't expect to be called to an account for every foolish thing we say.
What you have written then shall witness against you. Will you deny this promise of marriage in your own handwriting?
Don't think, ma'am, to bully me into the match. I can prove that promise to be given to you under the false character of an heiress. Therefore, your deceit somewhat loosens the obligation.
Take care what you say, sir. I will not see my niece wronged. The law shall do her justice, whatever expense it may cost me.
Being an heiress or not has nothing to do in the matter, Mr. Opal. For you expressly say in this promise that my beauty and perfections alone have induced you to engage yourself.
I protest there is not such a word in the paper!
Oh, base man! Will you deny your own writing? I can put them together again.
Shoe fast, Opal!
Is it very nice, Mr. Opal? You mount it up as expeditiously as a bit of plum cake.
What the deuce does all this mean?
Oh, this naughty girl, Mr. Opal, has only been amusing herself with your promise, which she never meant to make any other use of. She's already engaged to a very worthy young man who will receive with her a fortune by no means contemptible.
Well, much good it may do him. What do I care for silly girls?
Don't look so foolish, man. You did not know a word of all this now. Some people do get themselves into such scrapes. They have no more notion of managing their affairs than so many sheep.
I would have a word with your honour.
What? Giving away the place? It is impossible. It is some wicked machination. It is some damned trick.
Be moderate, Royston. What has good Mr. Humphrey been telling you?
Oh, the devil of a bite. His Grace has given away the place to a poor simpleton who never even had a soul to speak for him.
Who told you this, Mr. Humphrey?
Truly, sir, I called upon His Grace's gentleman and he told me it was given away this morning.
What cursed luck!
Why, says I thought my master was to have had it, Mr. Smoothie. And so he would, says he, but one person came to the Duke after another, teasing him about Mr. Royston, till he grew quite impatient.
Well now, you see how the world goes. Simpletons and idiots carry everything before them.
Nay, Royston, blame yourself too. Did I not tell you you'd found out too many roads to one place and would lose your way amongst them?
No! No, it is all this cursed perverse fate of mine. There's Harwood now. Fortune presses herself upon him and makes him at one stroke an idle gentleman for life.
No, sir. An idle gentleman I will never be. My Agnes shall never be the wife of anything so contemptible.
I thank you, Harwood. I do, indeed, look for an honourable distinction in being your wife. You shall still exert your powers in the profession you have chosen. You shall be the weak one's stay, the poor man's advocate. You shall gain fair fame and recompense, and that will be our nobility.
Well said, my children. You have more sense than I thought you had amongst all these whimsies. Now, let us take our leave of plots and storytelling, if you please, and all go to my house for supper.
So that concludes our comic play. Our heroine exerts her sway and makes her lover pass a trial to prove that he is worth her while. But hold, good friends, before you flee, just one more thing to hear from me. For I detect among this crowd some quibbles I must voice aloud. I saw a lady shake her head at news that Agnes chose to wed, and sigh, is woman's role in life just to go from girl to wife? Of course it's not, and I am proof, for I've no spouse beneath my roof. I let no rake seduce my heart. I chose instead to love my art. But for this art to make the stage, within this patriarchal age, it must arouse the man's applause and satisfy the censor's laws. And at this time when men fear most, that Wollstonecraft might rise as ghost and reignite the female fight to win at last our sex's rights, I must evade the public lash, for on my art depends my cash. So, is this play to be a hit? Will it please both box and pit? It's up to you to answer this. So will it be a cheer or hiss?